Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us for the first round of conversations within our STG at Home series. Access is very important at STG and we're striving to make this conversation as accessible to all as possible. We have closed captioning available, which can be easily enabled by hitting the closed caption button on the bottom of your screen. It's to the right. And you're going to notice that we're also going to be giving a brief description of our appearance as well, which is an effort to improve this experience for patrons who are blind or with low vision. My name is Victoria Weimer-Contreras. My friends at STG call me Tori. Please feel free to do the same. I'm the Director of Sales and Patron Services at the Seattle Theater Group. My preferred pronouns are she, her, hers. I have long brown hair and I'm wearing a royal blue top. The department that I oversee receives the bulk of patron feedback. And I just want to say thank you for being incredibly committed patrons and such a strong resource for us. As a staff, we refer to you as our most engaged patrons. Your subscribers, club members, group leaders, and donors. And the relationships that we share with you give us incredible feedback. And we take your feedback seriously because we care about you and we care about your experience. And over the course of the past 4 months, we've received so many questions from you, really incredible questions about the state of the arts, STG's future, what we're doing while our doors are closed, and the safety precautions that will be taken when we open our theaters again. So we put these events together this week to address your questions and your concerns in a transparent environment. We will begin with covering themes inspired by the questions you've been asking since our doors closed. And then we're going to focus on questions submitted to us when you signed up for this event. And then for the remainder of our time, we're going to address the questions that come in via the Q&A box. You'll see below that there's a chat box and then there's a Q&A area. Please use the Q&A area for your questions that you'd like addressed during the session. And our newly appointed Director of Education and Community Programs, Marisol Sanchez-Best, will be asking those questions. And I'm thrilled that you're going to get to meet her today. I'm expecting this to be a really rich conversation with you as our guests and our incredible speakers. Our plan is to keep this as close to 1 hour as possible. So without further ado, it is a pleasure to introduce to you Kate Becker, Creative Economy Director with the Office of King County, who works directly with Executive Dow Constantine, and Josh LaBelle, Seattle Theater Group's Executive Director. Hi. So I realize that everyone on this call knows Josh, and you may recognize Kate, who is a former STG employee. But Kate, you have had quite an interesting career since you've left STG. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to begin this session with you sharing some information on your new role with King County, as it's such an important role as we navigate the effects of COVID and the arts sector. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Tori. I'm delighted to be with you all today. I loved my time at STG, working with all these fabulous folks, and miss some of the fantastic opportunities I had over the years I worked at STG. I went on from there to work in local politics, actually, and ran the Office of Film and Music for 5 years, and then moved on to work with King County Executive Dow Constantine as the initial Creative Economy Director for King County. So I have the great honor of trying to help figure out how we keep our artists, our musicians employed, the small businesses and nonprofits that surround them healthy. That is what I am charged with. And in these days, I'm really charged with creative economy recovery. King County Executive Dow Constantine runs the public health department. So I have been immersed deeply in that work too over these last few months. And I just want to add on that I have red hair, my background matches a bit, and I am wearing a patterned shirt if you are trying to find me on the screen. So, and my pronouns are she, hers. So thank you for having me. Happy to be here with you, Josh.
Thank you, Kate. It's an honor to be here with you, and an honor to be with all of our patrons, as well as some of our staff who are tuning in. My preferred pronouns are he and him, and I have short to no brown hair, and I'm wearing a gray shirt and glasses and a green wire that connects to sound for me. So, Kate, I think we're just going to have a bit of a dialogue, and I'll hand back to you, and let's giddy up.
All right, let's do it. So, Josh, back in March, things were going along for STG smashingly. You had tremendous season underway, and suddenly COVID-19 became a reality here as the first place in the country to be impacted by it. It was quite an intense time, as I'm sure you well remember. But can we talk about that a bit, Josh? What happened in the second week of March for you as you were moving forward with all your plans, and simultaneously here was this new virus in our midst? Can you talk about how it impacted STG?
Yeah, absolutely. And thankfully, Kate, we were lucky that our county executive, Dow Constantine, appointed you to be in charge of the county's support and response to COVID for our arts and cultural sector. Really fortunate. And so what I remember is a lot of phone calls with you, and very specifically a phone call on March 12th around the lunch hour. I was eating pizza at Sirius Pie, and you gave us the understandable and sad news that we had to cancel immediately. We had Patti Smith booked at the Paramount Theater for that evening. And I just remember pretty much sprinting back to the office to get to our head of programming's office, Adam Zaks, shared the news with him. He handled things from there, but wound up making calls to all the people involved with that show. We learned that Patti was already in town. That was a bummer, and also sort of expected. And nevertheless, a cascade of events started happening. And much of it focused around our programming team, who started having to cancel and postpone, relocate, rebook lots of dates immediately for all three of our theaters, and even some of the shows that we were doing outside of our theaters. And to date, we have canceled or moved more than 300 performances. And that number continues to move as there's just an ongoing cycle of this in all zones of the arts that STG is involved in. We also took a mindset internally that we wanted a business plan that put our people first. That in the arts, at least at STG, we have three components. We have these historic theaters, we have an incredible staff, and we have the artists that we work with. And we needed to put a people-first vision together, and we brought this to our board, and thankfully, we had some reserves and we're able to keep 210 people employed up until middle of July, till about July 15th. And between reserves and a PPP fund, I think we received $2.9 million. That helped us do this. Unfortunately, we had to furlough and or lay off about 70% of that workforce. And we're continuing to do the best we can with a much smaller workforce, and keeping as involved in our community locally and nationally as possible. We immediately started connecting with lots of our service organizations, whether that's the Broadway League, Performing Arts Center Consortium, NEVA, as well as meeting regularly with local arts leaders. That's my memory. That's the immediate work that we did. I want to thank our board because they fully embraced people first, and still are. And that's a big deal. Hope to continue to do the very best we can for our people and our arts community locally as well as nationally.
Yeah, I know you love and treasure your staff, Josh, so, and all the artists you work with. So that commitment is just amazing. And yeah, I just hope it bodes well over time. I did want to ask you a bit about Broadway and touring Broadway. So STG definitely has touring Broadway as part of its regular season. And so as we think about the complications with this virus and the possibility that theaters may need to come back at partial capacity, does that work for touring Broadway?
I'm really appreciative of that question, Kate, because I think a lot of our patrons that are tuning in today and over the last few days really want to know about Broadway plans. And very specifically and very directly, no. I don't believe Broadway touring will happen in a reduced capacity environment. I believe that we will need to have a full capacity combined with various safety and health protocols for the general public, staff, and the artist, working to keep people as safe and healthy as possible. But that is what I think we should all expect from Broadway. We won't see Broadway tours happen in Seattle without a full capacity. So that's a pretty direct answer to that. I'm not sure if you want me to opine more about the Broadway situation, but that's it.
No, I think that was clear, Josh, and we have a lot to get through, so I'm going to keep moving along. I have had the good fortune to work with you in multiple capacities over the years, including the years I was on your team, and I know that you are super connected and respected both nationally and internationally as a performing arts leader. And I'm just wondering what you're hearing from the broader sector around how everyone's going to survive this. What are you hearing from the performing arts sector?
Well, I think the performing arts sector is largely starting to look and realize that this is going to be a long closure, and we're seeing the sector starting to look at spring and summer as a hopeful time to return. And I think different sectors are coming to that conclusion with different speeds. And I think the concert sector is really speeding up and really focusing a lot around late spring and early summer. I think Broadway's coming along there too, and it's a bit more complicated, I think, for Broadway to get there, but I have a feeling that will happen. But there's also a lot of work going on from the sectors around health and safety. And we're involved in those conversations and are really appreciative of organizations like the Broadway League helping to steward conversations and planning with the various unions that are involved with the performing arts, whether that's IATSE, Actors Equity, the Musicians Union, because in the end, we must keep everybody as safe and healthy to reopen and stay open. It's not just about opening, Kate. I think it's about staying open. And I think one of the really interesting puzzles here is looking at how different states and different cities are looking at this situation. And when it comes to touring, we are all interconnected. You know, I don't think a Broadway tour, by way of example, will necessarily happen until there could be 20 weeks at a minimum, which can involve anywhere from, 12 to 20 cities pulling together and saying, yes, we can all make this happen, and we're all on the same, same timing here. And by the way, you've got to make sure that they align rightly. So We're obviously on the West Coast, so staying in touch with our comrades on the West Coast is also important for us to check in, not just with Broadway, but with concerts as well. Anyhow, that's a little harder to answer so direct because people are coming into this in their own time, I suppose. Making these decisions winds up being somewhat of a personal thing that, you know, how do I finally realize that, wow, we may not be open until April? It takes a while to get your head around that. Anyhow, that's my, we're going to talk about advocacy a little bit later, so I'll save that comment. Let's keep it moving.
Okay.
I'll back to you, Kate. Keep moving. I'm not sure exactly where we are on the question lines here.
So we were going to talk about what it takes to open the theater, what patrons should expect as they come back to the theaters, and what will change in terms of how it feels when you come into the theater, what you should expect. Do you want me to address that, Josh?
I think it'd be great, Kate, just given that ultimately this is going to be up to a combination of local government and labor. And I just want to say that Seattle Theater Group will be 100%, 1,000% supportive of what local government and labor comes up with, because without health, nothing matters. Nothing can happen.
Yeah. So as you well know, Josh, Governor Inslee will set the standard, and then because King County is the most populated county in the state, we may have further restriction or further delay as those restrictions come down from the state. But I assure you, King County Executive Dow Constantine wants to get theaters reopened as quickly as is safely possible, and we are all committed to that. But what patrons might expect is it's possible there will be temperature checks, digital temperature checks. It's not determined yet. A lot of things are still in flux because, as Josh referenced, it's still a while until theaters reopen. And so some things will still be decided. Everything's being experimented with in different places across the country to see what works and what doesn't work. But certainly there will be additional hand washing stations, sanitizing, face coverings may very well be required when people come back to the theater, some sort of mask or face coverings. So it will be different, but this is going to be our new norm for a while until a vaccine or another therapeutic intervention for COVID-19 is discovered. So, you know, I think it will be different, but it will be different everywhere, not just at the theaters. There will be many places where we all have to adjust the way we've interacted around other humans, and that will be true at the theaters as well. So, Josh, I'm curious what you think it means for the stage hands, the actors backstage, the people who are backstage, and the union members. How will that be different? What is the challenge there?
Well, I would expect that there is going to be regular testing of artists and backstage employees, and I believe that I've already seen something come from one of the unions that would indicate a minimum of weekly testing for COVID-19, and that's a big deal, and also understandable. I would also expect things just as the patrons would be going through temperature checks, upon entry, hand washing stations in lots of places. I would expect implementing things like different staggered arrivals for crew and artists, so we're not having 50 people arrive all at once. I have a lot of questions about things. To be frank, how practical is it to be loading in big sets if there's still a requirement to maintain a certain amount of distance between people? Is that really doable? Is that practical? Because sometimes we're pulling up a lot of weight onto that grid. And I don't know enough about it to answer that, but it's top of mind, and know that it will be addressed. I would almost expect that load in and load out times may increase if we have to work different. And that's what I know right now. My thoughts today.
So very, very many complexities to figure out as you navigate these troubled waters, Josh. We talked a bit about how STG will get back into business, but I wanted to talk with you also about the other public health crisis we have going on. You may have heard that Executive Constantine and Public Health Director Patty Hayes declared that racism is a public health crisis. And with the Black Lives Matter movement going on, I'm just curious what STG is doing to evolve your business model and respond to that. I know you've long been committed to racial equity and making sure that programming engages folks from marginalized communities, historically marginalized communities, but wondering what you're doing now in this time of the Black Lives Matter movement that might be different. I
really appreciate that. And Kate, I want to commend you and Executive Constantine for coming out and framing this crisis as a health crisis as well, because it is in fact just that. And SCG's commitment around racial equity is at the forefront today. I have to own the fact that I don't think it was before this crisis. I think we were doing some good work, but our employees raised their voices loudly to us and said, you know, what we've been doing is not enough. And to some even felt like window dressing. Sure, we may have, commissioned Dance Theater of Harlem, on their 50th anniversary. We may produce Ailey Camp every year, Hamilton's Eduham, Roger Guenveur Smith presentations, things that are important. But I want to own and share with the folks listening that, our staff has raised the flag, and we are in the process of responding. So we did make a public statement that we're going to use this time of closure as an organization to reset, analyze our current strategic plan as part of the reset, make some changes, adjustments to it. And out of that, what our public statement says is we will be able to demonstrate a greater commitment to the Black community and all communities of color here. And the work has already started. We've got an excellent consultant working with our management team. And just from a personal standpoint, it starts with me. And I'm doing more and more educating of myself. And I think I've personally been a little guilty of getting too focused on action items before I've changed and understood enough myself. I've read a book recently and watched this interesting video around white fragility that one of our staff members had recommended. And I thought, wow, that really opened my eyes to so much. And so the work is going to be continuing, and I think it's got to be a lifelong commitment. I don't think this is something that, we're going to ever be able to check a box and say, okay, we've gotten there. We have our vision at STG as the People's Theater, a place where all are welcomed and represented. Now, a vision is what we aspire to. And I still love that vision. And boy, I feel like we could do a lot more in aspiring to that vision, and hopefully quicker. I mean, today our staff demographics are 85% Caucasian, 15% people of color. We want, Kate, to be an organization that reflects, at a minimum, King County's diversity in who's on our staff, on our board, as well as who we're serving. So I hope this is a good response to a really important question and issue you've raised.
Well, I think it definitely is, Josh, and I look forward to seeing the evolution of your work as you move forward with your commitment to racial equity. I just can't wait to see what you all do. I do have another question for you. Your stages are dark right now. What is happening while the theaters are all dark, Josh?
There's a bunch of stuff that we're working on. I'm going to go through a list because I felt like yesterday I stumbled on this question, so I actually wrote more things down. We're doing a lot of facility work at all three places. A lot of the work is focused around improving access for people with special needs and disabilities. Obviously, our programming team is continuing that whole process of moving dates around and booking. And in fact, it's just interesting to note that if we're able to open in March, between March of 2021 and August of 2021, we are confident we will have 300 performances to offer the community. There are already 175 concerts booked, and we're just 25 away from what we would predict. Interesting. We're working a lot on advocacy at a city, state, county, and federal level. I think we'll dig into a little bit of that more. As I mentioned, we're soon to be working on strategic plan updating and a reset of the organization. That's going to take several months. We're working hard on reopening plans and do so with meetings with people like yourself and other zones of our industry. We're doing some streaming with artists. Usually it's targeted for community benefit. I think one of my favorite ones we've done is we're also trying to support some community-based fundraising efforts. A while back, we connected Fish with Arts Fund, and Fish was able to stream a Washington State Gorge show that supported Arts Fund with, I think, $14,000 or $15,000, and that supported Arts Fund's Community Relief Fund here, or Artist Relief Fund. And we really applaud Arts Fund for stepping up and doing that. We're trying to be of help in supporting these kinds of community-based fundraising efforts. We're also using our venues for public benefit. We, I believe yesterday, finished a rather long blood drive at the Paramount Theater, and we will be, in partnership with Northwest Bloodworks, we will be also doing blood drives at the other two theaters, at the Moore and the Paramount. We're also, HR is busy supporting furloughed and laid off staff. And the thing I'm really very proud about is our education and community programs have largely shifted online. And it's my honor here to welcome Marisol Sanchez-Best, who has recently been promoted to the director of our education and community engagement programs. Marisol is taking the reins from Vicki Lee. Vicki Lee is retiring after 22 years. Tomorrow, Marisol, if I'm correct, you are on your own. But it's my pleasure to welcome my friend and colleague Marisol Sanchez, who will tell you a bit more.
Thank you so much, Josh. Hi, everyone. I'm Marisol. My hair is dark brown in a bun, and I have black earrings, and I have brown skin. I'm wearing a black and purple Oaxacan top, and my preferred pronouns are she, her, and hers. Yes, so Josh, as you mentioned a little earlier when you were talking about what you were doing eating at Serious Pie, I believe at this time you didn't mention that the date was March 12th. That I believe that's when you got the phone call. And on March 13, we were already doing our first live stream performance for the community with More Music at the More. So we didn't miss a beat. And I think that that was great for us because that plunged us into the digital world without having time to be scared or second guess ourselves. We just had to do. And a lot of our programs were transferred digitally. So from March 13 to July 21st, we've had 151 virtual experiences that have been transferred, and you can see them with Ailey Camp, STG Songwriters Lab, Young Ambassador Meetings, Dance for Parkinson's, Dance This, and our Broadway Inclusion Program, which is a program for adults with neurodiverse. In all of this COVID madness, I feel that this is so important to online programs because it's forcing us to pay attention to be more equitable and more inclusive as well. So these are things that we will carry on even beyond this digital world. So I'm just happy to be here, and I turn it over to Josh and Kate.
Thank you, Marisol. That was wonderful. Josh, you went off camera. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Sorry,
It's
I
okay.
clicked the wrong button. Thank you, Marisol.
151 education and community programs transferred to digital. Amazing, amazing. We still have a lot of questions to get through, Josh. So I'm going to jump in with some of the questions that have been sent in by patrons.
Let's go.
Okay. So are there proposed strategies for bringing audiences back to the Paramount? And are the City of Seattle and King County supportive of this strategy?
Yeah. Yes. King County, City of Seattle are supportive of at least having talks with us, and I'm most bullish about our work with the county right now. We have the honor of meeting with so far Kate and another one of Dow's colleagues usually every 3 weeks to provide updates to one another and talk about what reopening might look like. And in due time, they'll hand us over to the right people at the health department. And we also are in touch with the state. In addition to meeting with government, we're meeting bi-weekly with all the local arts leaders because I believe we're going to need to work together to raise funds as a local sector, hopefully, to provide the kinds of support and safety, what we call PPE, personal protective equipment, to keep people safe, keep artists safe at the time of reopening. So sort of dual strategy, meeting as a local sector, meeting with our local government, and we also are plugged into some of the various national groups, whether that's the Broadway League, Broadway Across America, whom we love, our Broadway partners. I think everyone is working hard towards this. And we're also kind of driving in the dark, to be really honest. I think different lights get turned on and illuminate new things, every week, it feels like,
It certainly is a constantly evolving environment. Josh, the last CARES Act bill is being wrangled out now in the Congress. And there are some bills there that I'm wondering if you've been involved with. Have you contacted your congressional representatives about some of the bills that are in front of them right now?
We certainly have. We're very excited about the potential for the Restart Act and the Save Our Stages Act. There's even a new one, which, Kate, can you remind me what that one is? That you just sent us, actually.
that is a new bill that has just come up in the last couple of days, that the idea is that performing arts organizations and cultural organizations could get some measure of the amount of ticket revenue they have lost back through this bill.
So, so we think it's critical to stay active on an advocacy basis right now for the health of not just Seattle Theater Group, but our sector. And, you know, I'm personally very bullish about Save Our Stages because it's a $10 billion relief program that Senator Amy Klobuchar started out of Minnesota, working closely with the First Avenue Club, and it comes out of NIVA, National Independent Venue Association, that Seattle Theater Group's been a member of, I think, for about 1.5 years or 2 years. I like this one so much, in part because it looks at the sector, not just nonprofits. It realizes that the health of agencies, music agencies in this situation, and the for-profits that we also all rely on in some form or another are also well taken care of. And I think that's so important. If you know, producers in theater, if Broadway Across America, if the Broadway League, if, you know, look what just happened at CAA in music. CAA is an agency that just laid off, you know, a very large portion of their staff. If we all don't work together to stay healthy together, it's going to be very difficult. So yes, we're involved and we're working and getting in touch with all of our federal legislators. We've reached out plenty, but now we've got some targeted stuff happening. And I'm hopeful that we'll see at least one of our Washington State federal representatives become a co-sponsor of one of these bills. Now, I don't think we should all expect this to happen in the next CARES Act. It could, but I think that there's a good chance Restart, SOS, or this other new one could. And our people that are joining us today, if you want to help and make your voice heard, we could help you do that and make it a very simple, efficient system. Just let any of our people know, and we'll giddy up.
Terrific. It's going to be so important as government navigates these complicated times that we have to invest in all the things that we need to be part of our society at the end, right? We can't just invest in critical medical, which is terribly important, but we have to invest in all the things, including making sure that our arts and culture sector is revived after all the damage that's been done to it. So, Josh?
Kate, you want to share with our friends what Oregon just did?
Oh my goodness, we were astounded to see that the state of Oregon just awarded $50 million of CARES Act funding to arts and culture organizations, including their independent live music venues throughout the state. This is the biggest award we have seen nationally yet. And that is our friends in Oregon who sort of think of themselves, and I say this with no disrespect at all, think of themselves as sort of our little sister, right? Like their arts and culture scene has not been as developed as Washington, and yet in this critical moment, they stepped up to save it, to acknowledge the importance of those jobs and that art and everything that that sector brings to the people of Oregon. I just think it's fantastic that they've done that, and we're gonna need some help here to get something big done here too. So,
well, let's give Jay Inslee, our governor, or Lisa Brown, who I believe is running the Department of Economic Development, right?
Department of Commerce, yes.
Department of Commerce. Let's give both of these people an opportunity to show their support.
Happy to help with that, Josh. Yeah, let's do it for sure. Want to keep moving through the questions. So one of the things that is going to be another added expense for STG is the cost of all the COVID prevention kinds of protocols you are going to have to put into place. It's going to be expensive over time, Josh. How are you going to do that?
We're just going to have to raise the money. And we're going to hopefully raise the money as a local sector and working closely with our government and hopefully working closely with certain foundations and then ideally with individuals. I think we're going to need a lot. An organization that's similar to STG I was speaking with in another part of the country that, although I think they have 2 theaters, we're talking somewhere around $350,000 that they think they might need. I don't want to put a number on what I think we need yet because I think it's a little premature. But I would not be surprised if it's in the multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to provide the kind of equipment we need. And then the other puzzle here, Kate, is of course, when we're allowed to open, if there's a vaccine already that's widely available, one has to ask, we have to ask ourselves, well, are we also still going to need all of that protective equipment at that time? And thus, when do we pull the trigger and spend the money? So this is something that I hope we all solve together.
Right.
So
I have another big one for you, Josh. What is the likelihood of Hamilton being canceled?
I don't think Hamilton, I think it is highly unlikely that Hamilton will cancel, just straight up.
Good.
Yeah, I'm bullish about Hamilton staying on the road and showing up in Seattle in May and June. I choose to be bullish about that. I can point to some things various government officials are saying that, you know, there's a good chance that we will have a vaccine widely available in the springtime. So I think it's highly likely Hamilton stays in its place.
Hallelujah. Good. I sure hope so. Hey, Josh, we talked a little earlier about your commitment to racial equity. And so a patron asked a question that is very relevant to that, which is, how will STG promote people of color to management positions as you move forward?
I think this comes to, it requires us to make a greater commitment to professional development and paying very special attention to all employees, notably BIPOC employees, and doing our very best for people along the lines of professional development at STG and also, I think, within our overall arts sector. I think it's as straightforward and as complicated as that. So, you know, I'm also committed to being completely transparent about where we are now. I have the belief that which is measured usually improves. And I don't use the word improve lightly. And I don't want anybody to take offense of that use of improvement. But the fact is that our industry professionals are not nearly as diverse as they ought to be. You know, and it's high time that changes. And I just think it comes down to a commitment and professional development. I spoke earlier today with one of my very few colleagues in the Broadway theatrical industry today who is Black. I said to her, like, I'm tired and of you carrying this water on your own, because she's been one of the few people that always will bring this issue up, and just gave her my commitment that I will be bringing this up at our various industry tables, and she can tell me to knock it off at any point, but I think it's important not just at STG that we do this, but at the whole sector. And as part of our reset, I think we need to look structurally. We will look structurally at what else can we do internally. Can we put together, you know, another form of management, certain task force that has, again, greater focus around professional development and sharing of some of this responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Great, Josh. Well, excellent. We still have a few more questions, and I do believe we have some questions from our live audience as well. So I'm going to keep moving right on, Josh. How much funding for the arts?
Great.
How much funding for the arts is planned by our city and county and state government? Oh, I'm supposed to answer that question.
You got that one. Yeah, you got that one.
Okay. So at this moment in time, there has been some allocation by For Culture, which is the county's arts and culture funder. They currently have a reopened fund for small and mid-sized nonprofits open with $1 million fund. King County Council and Executive Constantine allocated $4 million to help get some of our arts and culture organizations moving through this, and they included independent live music venues as qualifying for that funding, because the executive is very committed to our music industry as well and making sure that we recover that industry. But the state, we still need to keep working on that, everyone, to figure out where we can find that allocation of funding to support this sector that is so many jobs and so much of the greatness of this region that we have to find a way to bring some public funds to support it and make sure that we recover this sector. Did you want to add on to that at all, Josh?
No, I think you said it perfectly. I 100% agree.
Okay. I have a question here about how will theater survive without live performance? Will it survive without live performance, Josh?
I don't think theater survives without live performance. Theater is live performance. We're not in the business of television and film. The physical spaces must be taken care of, and the physical spaces will survive. And one day, these physical spaces will return. And sure, moving things online can help a lot. Look at the great work Marisol and the team there is doing with the education community engagement programs. But watching something on your screen is not the same as a live performance. And so I don't really consider theater surviving, you know, on a computer screen. But I have every reason to believe that we will survive as an industry, as a sector. And when we do start coming back, Seattle Theater Group will not simply be focused on, you know, the financial zones of making up for the losses. We want to return to our usual commitment to taking artistic risks with fiscal diligence and not simply serving, if you will, easy things to sell like mac and cheese, right? We want to come back with challenging, interesting work. We will never be the same, and I think that's a good thing. There will things that we experience during this time that will carry on into an open environment, and the on-screen stuff could certainly help. And we've got to save theater by getting it back live.
Yes.
That's my own opinion.
Yes, indeed. One last patron question, and then we will go to the questions from our live audience, Josh. But how long can STG hold on through this crisis without your doors open?
So provided our patrons, foundations, and government continue to provide financial support in contributed revenue, provided that that can still be maintained, I'm certain that we could survive at least another year, which would suck, but I think that is the answer. About another year, at least another year, and we need your ongoing help to do so. We will be exploring some new creative revenue streams soon, even if we're limited to just 5 people participating. So keep an eye out on emails about some private event opportunities that we'll be giving people the opportunity to, have cocktails with their friends, happy hour, message on the marquee, that kind of stuff's coming soon. And want to remind everybody how you can also help is please advocate with us. Advocate our local government and our federal government for the sector, not just for STG.
Excellent. Thank you, Josh. I think Marisol is going to come back on with us now. There she is.
Absolutely. Just a reminder that you can go ahead and submit your questions in the Q&A below. Thank you so much, Kate and Josh. So here are some questions. With all of your vast experience with live music, do you think it will be feasible for artists to do multiple dates with limited capacity, aka a residency of some sort, and still be able to make it work financially for both the artist and STG itself?
That's a great question. I'm going to speak specifically, well, thank you. It's directed at live music. I think the answer is yes, and it will be different. So, I wouldn't be surprised if in fact we're needing to do lower capacity shows, say, Paramount seats nearly 3,000, and let's say, Kate and Dow Constantine say, guys, during this time period, you can only do 50% capacity. I think it's possible that artists will still want to make these shows happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do so in a smaller configuration to reduce their own costs of being on the road. So we may see a lot of solo performances. We may see duos. I would be surprised to see, a big, heavy, large band and all those big trucks pulling up. But I would not be surprised to see a few artists playing acoustically, using house sound and lights, and making this work. So I'm hopeful there. I would also add that if we are able to open up with a lesser capacity, it will be STG's intention to find ways of working with our local artists to provide an audience as well as revenue for our important local musicians.
Thank you. Thank you for whoever submitted that. The next question is, I recently received an email concerning performances of Anastasia in December at the Paramount Theater. Are the dates realistic?
Straight up, I don't think they're realistic. No. I will not be surprised if Anastasia moves, and you all will be the first to know.
So, another question that came through is, any possibility of financial relief from major benefactors, heavy hitters?
Yes, there is chance of that, and I think we're working on that, but our entire sector is working on that. So I'm hopeful there. There's always that chance, but there's a fair amount of work going on right now around that.
It looks like that's the end of our questions. So I just want to turn it over really quick to Tori to say thank you. And that will be it.
Thank you, Josh and Kate, so very much for being here. Kate, you've added so much to the conversation with your history with this topic. Do either of you have anything else you want to share with our patrons before I wrap things up?
I'd just like to say thank you for having me. I think so highly of STG and all of you who I had the good fortune to work with, and the new employees who are on now. It's just a fantastic organization. Happy to do this with you. And thank you all for joining us today.
I would just simply like to add a huge thanks to all of the people who have tuned in. Theater needs people, and just to be able to connect, even if it's on this unusual format of Zoom, I think, I know it gives us all a bit of an uplift at STG. To be able to stay connected in some ways is a huge help. We appreciate all your support and your time, and we'll continue to stay in touch. And thank you again for all the support moving forward.